Happy New Year, everybody. You're live with the Jungle Jumps podcast. You've got me on today hosting, Paddy, and joined by me is Darren and Dan Orlowitz, Japanese-based sports writer for the Japan Times. Is that right, Dan?
That is correct, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too, my friend. Just before we get started, Dan, if you could just give us a wee quick lowdown about yourself and how you come to be tweeting about Celtic and most obviously the Japanese fellas that we've just brought in.
Well, I've been living in Japan about 15 years now. I've been following the JLeague since 2007. I've blogged about it, written about it for a bunch of different publications, websites. I worked for Goal.com. I worked for some Japanese websites. I currently work at the Japan Times, which is the country's biggest English newspaper. And one day I woke up and there were these rumors coming about that Celtic were interested in Ange Postecoglou, who was at the time at Yokohama F. Marinos. And this was, we're still mid-pandemic and all the press conferences are still by Zoom and all that. And so there was a game, and afterwards I hop into the room and I say, I wait because there's 3 people ahead of me and I'm waiting and I'm sure somebody's going to ask the question. And the first guy asked just a bullshit tactical. Sorry, can I swear on this? Is that cool?
Okay.
I try to be good.
Listen. This is nice and loose. This podcast, you do as you please.
So I wait, and first Japanese journalist asks tactical question. Second Japanese journalist tactical question. They get to me, and I'm like, is there anything here? It's there are these Celtic rumors. Can you comment? And he's like, no, and he gave a non-answer, and I was like, yeah, I had to try. And he was like, yeah, you did. And that was the start of it. And I asked the question because nobody, the Japanese journalists here don't tend to ask the question, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And I guess now I am. A cultural interpreter, I would call it, for trying. I'm enjoying the chance to explain how the JLeague how we sort of function and about our players to Celtic fans, and I've learned all sorts of interesting things about you guys. So
you seem to have turned into the kind of unofficial correspondent for Celtic in Japan.
Kind of. It's fun. It's weird. It, especially in the year that we've had the Olympics to cover, we still have the pandemic and the impact of that. But it's nice to, from the start, as a fan, as a writer, all I want to do is to share about Japanese football with the rest of the world. And this is one of the best chances I've ever had to do that, because we have such a big audience in Celtic fans, and everyone is really eager to learn about the league. And so if I have a chance to teach y'all about the league and the players and the culture, then it's an amazing opportunity.
Well, that's obviously something that you have been doing, because most of us have been keeping up to date with your Twitter stats up about the JLeague, and obviously we've had the rumours about the 3 boys coming in for Japan for the last few months, and again, most of the guys that try and keep up to date with transfer news have just been constantly looking on Twitter, and it's yourself that's been popping up. But we'll just get right into it, Anna. So yesterday was Hogmanay, 31st December, and Celtic put up an announcement pretty early on in the morning that they'd officially signed 3 Japanese players who we'd all expected possibly, maybe 1 or 2 possibly, to come in on today, because obviously today is when the transfer window opens up officially. But as I say, Celtic made the announcement that they had signed, and I'm probably going to murder the pronunciation, so you can just tell me off whenever. So it is Daisen Maida.
Close. It's Daizen.
Daizen.
Daizen. Pretty good first attempt. Yeah.
Thanks. Daizen Maida. Rio Hatate.
Great.
And this one's getting me. Is it Yosuke Itaguchi?
Yosuke Itaguchi. Yeah, that's right. Right. So some people add the H, so it turns into like Yoshuke, I've heard sometimes, but just Yosuke Itaguchi. But pretty good. Look, there are still.
Don't give him any credit, Dan.
Hey, you know what? It's been half a year, and people, Kyogre is still giving some of y'all a tough time.
So just on that note, then, can you tell us how we actually pronounce his name? Because I've seen a few places that a couple of maybe guys that are based in Japan are saying that we're saying it wrong.
So it's just Kyogo, and
Kyogo.
it's just Kyogo, and it's just 2 syllables, Kyogo. And I've heard Kyogo, Koyogo, and I'm not making. I mean, I'm not making fun. Because it's it happens. I thought that Furuhashi would be sort of the challenge. But it turns out that Kyogo is sort of, and I understand how it turns from 2 syllables into 3. But as long as you're cheering for him, we're happy. That's what it comes down to.
Usually what happens, Dan, is when a player comes into Scotland and there's a bit of trouble with the pronunciation, they're usually called either Jimmy or Shug, regardless of what their name is. But what's happening with you anyway, Dasbo? Are you quite excited? Are you excited about the 3 signings coming in?
It's like everything else in it. You hear about it, then you get all the YouTube clips, and then that's it. That's me. I'm in love already. And I'm scared to say any of their names now because in case I get it wrong now that he's told us all. So I'll leave the pronunciations to the experts here.
I wouldn't exactly say I was an expert, mate, but that's what we were saying when I was speaking to you yesterday, Dan, that you would be surprised if Celtic actually announced the Itaguchi signing. So was that something that kind of took you aback?
It's I've said it a few times. I'm going to keep saying it. Like, I don't mean to slag him as a player, because he has the talent, he has the tools, he has shown us that he can be a great player. But it is weird. He is not the first player. He is not a player who, if you had asked me back in June or July if he was on Ange's list, I would not have said yes. But there is, Ange has seen him in action. As I think I tweeted last night, the goal he scored against Australia in World Cup qualifying, from like just out of nowhere from 20-ish meters out. If he only scores 4 goals a year and they all look like that, then you're pretty happy. And especially if he's contributing on the defensive end as much as Itaguchi does. There are questions about his form, just whether, he had the bad injury when he was in Germany a few years back. He returned to Japan. He's been playing okay. Last season was a season to forget, but it was a season to forget for everyone at Gamba. As I've said, Ange is looking at this block of marble and he sees the elephant. Do I see the elephant? I don't know. But if Ange sees the elephant, I'm going to be patient and let him chip at it and see what comes out. And I think that that's the stance and I know that asking Celtic fans to be patient is like asking the sun to, wait a bit before it rises in the east. I know that this is a very tough ask, but this is what I said when Ange signed with Celtic. This is what I said when Kyogo signed with Celtic. I said it's going to take a little time to get everything working, but when it does, you will be happy that you waited. And to be honest, I'm confident that Maida will be successful. I'm fairly confident that given a bit of time to develop, Hatate will be successful. If you assume that those two are very likely to succeed, and you look at how Kyogo has succeeded, I think you give Ange a pass and you let him take the punt on this one and see what happens. Because worst case, you're out €1 million and you sell him to someone in Belgium or Portugal or Germany or wherever. I don't think you're going to lose money on Itaguchi as long as he doesn't get a horrible injury or anything like that. But the upside, if he finds his form, if he gets his groove back, then you have a very dangerous player in midfield, which I'm told you're very much in need of.
Yeah, we've obviously been assessing the squad on the podcast for the last few months now. If you go back to the end of last season, Dan, Celtic was obviously chasing a historic 10 in a row. It didn't happen. We ended up, the manager was left the club. We spent months waiting on Eddie Howe which was an absolute farce. And then just out of the blue, Ange Postecoglou was announced. Everybody, myself included, a lot of people on this side of the world were just like, who is this guy? But what we've seen since he's come in is that he's told us what he's going to do. He's definitely doing it. And the thing that's kind of fascinating for me, Dan, is that our Celtic board is historically very, very hard to deal with in terms of getting, if a manager gives them a list and says, I want these players, it's very rare that they actually go out and buy the players. We've spent millions upon millions on utter rubbish. And I say that with no disrespect to any of the players, but they've been absolute rubbish. But, for Ange to come in as an unknown manager, excuse me saying that, but on this side of the planet, majority, it was unknown, even though since we've done more research, he's certainly known across the world. For him to come in on his own, no fellow coaches, basically come in to a team that was depleted and get his first signing from Japan, who was Kyogre, that signalled an intent there that this wasn't a guy who was just being put into place just to kind of take over the team, and your scouts and whatnot would be buying the players. This is a guy that's brought in a player who he knows from Japan. So right away, those signs were good. And within those kind of months that passed by, there was names leaked out, like your Maida, your Hatate, and you're hoping, like, if these guys are going to be signed, it's going to be a big coup for Ange if they're going to be the players that kind of fits into his system. Because as it stands, he's got players to fit into his system. It's taken a wee bit of time. And as you say, like, for us Celtic supporters, we've just lost the league last year. We need to win the league this season. It's a massive season in terms of getting into the Champions League. But slowly but surely, the squad's been evolving under Ange's kind of philosophies. And I'm just hoping that these guys that come in are like a missing piece of the puzzle. We've watched these guys, Dan, as on the famous platform of YouTube when we're trying to scout players. And you look at Maida, and he looks like an absolute rocket. He's so fast, quick. And the thing about him is, I don't really enjoy stats as such, statistics, but the stats that I've seen about Maida, I'm really, really impressed with his pressing stats, even his goal stats to an extent. But how do you think that a player like Maida? We'll start off with Maida and we'll work our way down the rest of the players. But Maida is, I think, overall the player that everyone's most excited about to see come into Celtic. So how do you think that he will be able to transfer from Japan into life in Scotland? And how do you think his attributes will help the squad?
I think that of the three, Maida is the most likely to not just succeed at Celtic, but to become the sort of fan favorite that Kyogre has already become. Just has Mad Lad tattooed to his forehead, just describes himself as wanting to play like this reckless daredevil. You look at, again, I appreciate that you're sort of not a stat guy. I'm sort of not a stat guy. I don't like getting into the weeds on analytics. I leave that to my friends who are smarter than me. I
don't mind the main stats, but I think sometimes statistics blind an actual fact.
Well, I think that there is a time and a place, and I think it's important, and they do offer context. But just I like my personal interests are more in the history, the culture, the zeitgeist, and so that's sort of where I approach from. And as far as his playing style, you look at the JLeague does keep its official stats, and they have sprint counts, so just how many sprints a player makes in per game. And I think last season, Maida was like 17 of the top 20.
Right.
He is fast. He will get, he give him the ball and he will get it to the box. Yep. And then he will shoot, and then he will probably score. It is not easy to be he was joint top scorer last year along with Leandro Damião, who plays for Kawasaki and was Hatate's teammate. It's not easy to be a Japanese top scorer in the JLeague, where we usually do have lots of really talented Brazilian players who tend to play the sort of the poacher. A lot of the goals tend to go through them. And you look, I mean, when Kyogre left, he was the JLeague's top scorer.
Yes.
And Maida has left as the JLeague's co-top scorer. So you've got a lot of goals.
So we've done not bad. We've done not bad so far.
No, he is. I think what Maida, he has, just one of Japan's best in terms of pushing for the goal. And that is an issue that we've had in the national team for a while, where we don't have strikers who can just dominate in the final third and carry the team into the goal in their backs. We don't have the Messis, the Ronaldos, the Neymars who can do that. And we hope that Maida can be that sort of striker. Or we hope that Itaguchi can be that sort of striker too. But between the two of them, I mean, they should be the future.
So what type of formations would Maeda usually play within his team? Because Celtic obviously set up with a 4-2-3-1 formation. So you're literally playing with one striker and two wider men. So as it stands now, kind of Furuhashi's the main man as a striker. So I'm kind of thinking that if Maeda comes in, then he's more or less going to be on the wing but cutting inside.
Yeah, I think so too. I would expect. I mean, I think 4-2-3-1 is what he was used to at Marinos. I mean, they sort of shift up. You get some weird formations in the JLeague, but I think that Maida played under Postecoglou for 2 years, give or take. He knows exactly what he's getting into. As he said in his statement on the Marinos website, I'm going to visit the boss.
Yep.
And knows exactly he will know exactly what he wants to do with Maida. And he will find a spot. If it's on the wing, if he's putting Maida, if he decides to try Maida in center and maybe push Furuhashi to the wing. I know that Furuhashi's strength is in the center, but maybe that partnership will work, because just the communication between them should be so good. Ange has almost too many weapons at his disposal right now. So he's spoiled for choice. You won't have any depth issues in the Conference League, in the Premiership, in anything. So I'm excited to see. The more Japanese players we have on the pitch, the better.
Well, I think for me it's a good thing that obviously the three guys are coming in at the same time. So you're not going to be kind of a player left on himself in an unknown land, and they've got Furuhashi there, possibly to welcome them and give them the kind of heads up about life in Scotland. Plus you've got Postecoglou, who obviously managed in Japan as well. Yep. But just a last question on Maeda before we move on, Dan, was that now I know Celtic have played some great football this season when it's been fast flowing and open. Where Celtic have failed a few times this season is when the opposition defence have basically packed their defence. You've got kind of big players who just defend for their lives. Do guys like Maeda ever come up against defences like that in Japan, and how do they deal with it?
I think, you do get some very tough defending in Japan, because there aren't very many teams that can attack so freely. There's only I think of Marinos, I think of Frontale, I think of Sapporo sometimes, I think of what Urawa Reds are turning into, and a lot of teams mostly just defend and then press counter. So he will be very familiar with defenses that sort of don't want to open up, but I think that he has the technical ability. I think that he has the physicality to get through that, and just the speed when it comes down to it. Look, if the defense is just sort of putting as many people as they can behind the ball, it doesn't matter if he's already behind you. And I think that's what you can expect from Maida.
See, on just to go back on your Ange Postecoglou, I'm telling you, I was the first Celtic fan to break it. And if you look through my Twitter feed, I'm telling you, it was me. And all that happened was I'd heard that Eddie Howe wasn't taking the job. And then I looked on the bookies to see who the bookie's second favourite was. And I'm like, and I Googled it. And then I'm like, so I put it on Twitter. I'm finding myself Googling this guy a lot. And then down under Tim's from obviously Australian Celtic Supporters Club, they come in and gave us a big history on it. So I came in like, yes, when it was announced, like, I told you so. anyway, see, I'm going to just call him Gucci until I can work out how to say his name properly. I'm not going to try and murder the Japanese language here. So Maeda sounds like promising, and from everything that you just said, it's like, yes, now I can't wait to the 17th of January we start playing again. So where do you see, I'm going to call him Gucci, where do you see him fitting in?
So he is, again, more, I think, sort of the number 6 position, sort of more deep-seated, holding defensive midfielder, really good at pressing, like great at defensive pressing, really tenacious when it comes to those sort of one-on-one encounters, great at forcing turnovers. And, he can help build up the attack. He's not going to be in the box necessarily, but again, if he sees his window, he will go for it.
A Beckenbauer type.
Yeah, I mean, it's, again, if he's scoring 4 goals a year, it doesn't matter if they're all just shit pingers from outside the box. And that's just the kind of player he is. And we're waiting to see if he can get that mojo back. But I think that that works well with Ange's sort of strategy, because I think Ange is very aggressive about getting possession, getting and winning the ball back when you don't have it. They're not just sitting and waiting for the other team to attack and then just sort of forcing the turnover in your own territory. Ange wants the ball back as high up as possible. And to that end, I think Itaguchi is a good match, or potentially a good match, because I think that, he's the kind of guy who will get you the ball back and then get it to, an attacker or someone who can move the ball upfield and push the attack.
We've definitely saw moments of that, Dan. That's the way Ange sets his teams up. There's a famous video on YouTube, and it's he's doing a training session, and you can hear the microphone, and he's basically saying, "You don't stop until they stop," kind of thing. What I was going to ask you was, obviously the league's just finished in Japan. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right. So as it stands right now, Celtic are going through a bit of an injury crisis. We were low on numbers for squad anyway, but then we started bringing in more players. But in the last month or so, we've saw a lot of hamstring injuries, muscle injuries, because obviously the kind of pressing that Ange's demands, how hard he's asking them to work. So we actually need a few players to come in and try and force their way in straight away. So the question was, with the league ending, when do you think that if these guys come in and kind of force their way into the team kind of straight away, when do you think there might become a time like when their fitness levels will start to peak, because they've obviously just played a full season?
So the JLeague finished on December 4th,
right,
or the first division. Hatate would have played in the Emperor's Cup semifinal, which was on December 12th. So they've had three-ish weeks off, to recover. And I'm sure that, the players aren't fools. These moves have been in the works for, weeks, if not months now. They understand that they have to get ready for this, because I think all of them want to, try to make the first team as soon as possible. It will be an adjustment, because obviously I think Scotland's winter is a lot colder than
yes,
what they're used to playing in just over the course of the year. It's the football calendar in Japan goes from February to December.
right.
And so we've got, 1 p.m. kickoffs until the spring, and then once it hits summer, it's all 7 p.m. because of, it's hot and it's humid. So these are players who are used to dealing with the hot summers and the humidity and the temperatures and all that, and dealing with snow on the ground. Do y'all do like the yellow ball? Is that what like are there many snow games in the Premiership?
The yellow ball. Oh, all right, yes, right. Yeah, using yellow football during the snow. Yeah.
Yeah. So that might be a challenge. I mean, Maida did start his pro career in Matsumoto Yamaga, which is a more northern city, and so he will maybe feel a little at home, because that up there gets cold. Like they have like snowfall on the opening day of the season, cold, and he'll get used to it. You do. I think they do want to be wary of not getting injured, of staying fit and staying healthy. There is the question of national team call-ups in January, because there is that window there. That is not something, that's for the Japan Football Association and Celtic to work out. I would expect Kyogre to be called up. I'm not so sure about Hatate and Maida. But it also depends on the border situation in Japan and where the games will be taking place. So we'll see how that goes. But I think that if the first game is January 17th, I would expect any of them to be ready.
My big pal McCool just texted me there and he asked me, did these go into the starting 11? And if so, who then makes way for them?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think that you guys have a better knowledge of where the Celtic starting 11 stands. But I think, if Kyogre's in the 11, I'm not sure if you start Maida. I think that he can start on the bench. Hatate, I'm not sure about. And given the sort of depth issues at central midfield, he might give Itaguchi a chance. I don't know. It would be weird, and by weird I mean unexpected, but he can see. I think Hatate is useful because he can, sort of a Swiss Army midfielder. He can play just about anywhere on the left side. So I wouldn't want him starting at left back to start. Like, I wouldn't want him tossed into the fire, baptized with as a defender. I think that can get a little dangerous because he, as a defender, that isn't his strongest position, even though he is capable of playing there.
Well, that's the exact question I was going to ask you next, Dan, because obviously we've saw a lot of Maida, and to me he looks like almost like a right winger who can cut inside. Itaguchi, as you say, looks like a kind of sitting midfielder, number 6 type. But the one that's kind of confusing a lot of Celtic supporters is Hatate. And a lot of people have read that, he's a left back, and a lot of people have read that he's a midfielder. Mm-hmm. So this is exactly where I wanted someone like yourself to come on and give us the exact kind of lowdown. Who is this guy? Where does he play?
So
I thought you were going to sing Cotton Eye Joe there.
he started as a I think Celtic announced him as a utility player, which is, let's be fair, like, I would maybe some friends have described that as disrespectful. I've described him as sort of a Swiss Army midfielder, bit of a chameleon. He can do anything, in a way, like, sort of a, Manchester City is a Cancelo, like that sort of, can play a lot of different places. So he started the JLeague season as left back, just to fill in for injuries, transitioned to his sort of regular position, which is more wing back, or central, like left side of the midfield. And then he made the JLeague's best 11 as a forward, which is what he's registered as.
A forward?
Yes, he's registered as a forward.
Has he? Right.
So the question of where he will play, the answer to that is wherever Ange wants him to play. He can play. He can fill in just about anywhere, but don't ask him to put on the goalkeeper gloves. But he's pretty versatile, and I think that's what suits him for Ange's style more than anything else, that he can play anywhere.
So see when he plays in midfield, Dan, because Celtic's midfield right now is really lacking someone who can kind of make the runs forward and drive through and support the forwards.
Right.
So when Hatate plays in midfield, is he the kind of player that will break forward, or will he kind of drift out wide and try a wee bit of skill, or is he a passing midfielder? Or
he's great. I mean, he dribbles and the ball is just glued to his feet. It's just really good sense of pass distribution. He's not going to assist. He's not going to score goals. He's not necessarily going to assist, but he will be sort of the third or fourth touch before the goal. He's your setup man. He's sort of if Itaguchi is sort of like the central sort of defense tower in the midfield, then Hatate is sort of the radar station on the left, and he's setting stuff up. And again, he can drift forward. He can even create, send in some crosses and create some chances. But just his versatility combined with his technique, which is really good, is what makes him such an asset. And as far as the defending goes, I mean, he does put a lot of pressure on himself. He is passionate about playing, whatever his coaches want him to play. He is very dedicated under Toru Oniki, the head coach of Frontale. He does put a lot of pressure on himself, and he does get into issues with fouls when he's sort of established as a defender. And I think that's sort of just I'm not going to say it's a maturity issue, because he is very mature, but it's just about him putting the expectations on himself that he has to carry the team, and that he's in this position. So I think that Ange probably has a better understanding of how to coach him and how to put him in a position where he is supported and doesn't feel the need to carry that section of the field on his back by himself, if you get what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like a workhorse, something that's just going to keep running. Dan,
basically what you're saying is plan the title celebrations for me, because it's coming. We're bringing it back.
Look. I'm not a betting man. I'm not going I'm not here to bullshit you. I am not going to say, what's the gap right now? 5 points, 6 points?
6 points.
6. A 2-game swing.
But look, I think that with these players in full fitness and whatever other moves Celtic might make during this transfer window, it's going to be a tight one. It's going to be a very tight race, and these players, have a lot of they've got experience playing for championship clubs in high pressure situations. Hatate in particular, having played for Kawasaki, in his first 2 professional seasons, 2 JLeague titles, best 11 selection. When Hatate is playing in the most talented squad in the JLeague, bar none, and he can establish himself from year 1 as a starter and keep that position this year, he's talented. Just no question about it. So, you look at how he performed during the Olympics. It's he got more of a chance to show off than Maida during the Olympics, because our national team coach is not the best at using the weapons he has at hand. But Maida and Hatate are both, international credentials. They if they do not represent Japan in Qatar, they will in 2026. That is how confident I am in them.
Well, I mean, you look at their ages. I mean, I think it's Itaguchi who's the oldest one. He's 25.
25. Hatate just turned 24.
And you look at the transfer values that's been reported, Dan. You look at Itaguchi. It's the rumor is that it's roughly about £865,000 to sign him for a 4-year contract. Pretty much the same with Hatate. And then you look at Maida. Maida's coming in on loan for, I think, just a few months, and then there's a clause in his contract where Celtic can activate a 4-year contract, basically. And I think that's probably
it's
in the £1 million.
Compulsory, is it not? Is it not compulsory?
Aye, I think it is. So that's already set in stone. You know that he's coming to Celtic on a 4-year deal for roughly £1 million. So, you know, for me, I mean, even on a financial kind of topic, that's a great coup for Celtic. So it's a pretty low figure for us to be paying out. You know,
it is.
How do the kind of the teams in the JLeague feel about losing their best players for a pittance?
This is an issue that those of us who follow and cover the JLeague have had for a while, which is that JLeague clubs are not getting enough money for the players that they are sending to Europe. Now, you know, I've gotten the counter argument from agents I know and that I've talked to, that it is about assessing the market value. And until Japanese players start performing in the Champions League on a regular basis at numbers, you know, that is sort of, these numbers that you're seeing are sort of the fair value. Is it really enough? I mean, I think you look at what Kyogre got, and I just think of the numbers in yen, and I can't even like convert back to pounds.
I think it was about £4 million.
Fair, which is a very fair transfer. And that was very good business by Celtic and very good business by Vissel Kobe. I think that Maida deserved more. I think Hatate deserved more. I think that you are easily, if they develop to their expectations, and eventually when Celtic want to sell them to a marquee Premier League club or whatever, easily, you know, you're looking at £10 million and up. I like the potential. The potential is there for them to get numbers like Takumi Minamino got when he moved from Salzburg to Liverpool. Like that is the money we are talking about. So the hope is that, I mean, one, that the actual numbers, because this is just what's been reported, that the actual numbers are a bit higher, and two, that hopefully there are other considerations. If Yokohama and Kawasaki got sell-on fees, that would be good. If there are commercial considerations, let's call it, maybe, again, I'm not breaking any news here. I'm just purely speculating. But if Celtic and Yokohama had done a handshake deal for a preseason friendly at some point, it wouldn't surprise anyone.
I think that would be great for both clubs, because with the same kind of setup that happened when obviously Nakamura signed for Celtic.
Yep.
We made an absolute fortune through merchandising. I saw it myself. I saw, you know, fan clubs from Japan coming over to Glasgow to come and watch them. So if we're going to have Kyogre, you know, Maeda, the brightest players in Japan, if that's what I can call them, then surely the merchandise kind of ceiling for Celtic is very, very high. But as you say, that would be great if we could absolutely tap into that market by coming over and playing.
What Maida and Hatate in particular bring to the table is that they are coming from clubs with absolutely fanatical followings, and these are fan bases that are not only very loyal to the clubs, but very, very, very loyal to the players. And this is a sort of a different cultural thing that is unique in Japan, in that I think among Celtic fans, players come and go, and you have the players that you like and the players that you don't rate, but in the end, it's the badge above everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
In Japan, it is more, I mean, it is the badge, but if your favorite player transfers to another club, that does not mean you stop following that player. There is a large number of fans who will keep supporting that player. You know, you see, right, and like, and you know, that's like, I'm not saying that way of thinking is wrong, but like, it is sort of nice. It is sort of funny when you see like an old lady in her 50s going to a game, and you see like the keychain, you know, uniform straps on her, you know, on her bag, and it's like the same player from every season, and then the color changes because he changed teams, but she still loves him. Right. No, but there is that loyalty there. There is that affection there. When Yoshito Okubo, who set the record, is the league's all-time top scorer, 193, 197 goals. His Kawasaki fans started keeping the Okubo meter, just as like this giant banner that was a tally of how many goals he scored. When he moved to Seto Osaka, the banner went with him, and they gave it to the fans, and they repainted it and did the new colors. Like, we have a very, the JLeague family, unique. But like it is a JLeague family, and there are rivalries. There are some very intense rivalries. Nothing like what you guys have with the other guys.
Well, I'll tell you.
But there is, it is a family, and and the players are a part of that family. And so when Maida goes, there's still going to be a ton of Marinos fans who will become Celtic, that Celtic is going to become their Scottish team, and they're going to follow Maida, and they're going to get the uniform, and whatever merch gets put out, they'll try to get it. Sorry, I think you look like you were going to ask a question.
No, I was just about to say, just going back to like a few points ago, what you're saying about the atmosphere. I'm telling you, Dan, they have not seen anything yet until they've witnessed a night at Celtic Park under the lights on a European night, a night versus them from across the city. And I'm telling you, and how do you think that these are going to handle the Cauldron, which is an away game at Ibrox? How do you think they'll relish it? And then because they're going to have 55,000 people there hating everything about them and making their feelings heard. Are these going to rise to it and say, basically, fuck yous, I'm here for Celtic and I'm here to bury yous? If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that you've seen how Kyogre has taken to that atmosphere, and I think that these three. I think that they are definitely. I think the last couple of years have been weird because of the pandemic, and we haven't had the crowds that we should have. And just so you understand, Japanese fans have not been allowed to cheer or sing or chant at sporting events since the start of the pandemic. And that is a rule that they have followed to the letter. For the most part, everyone still wears masks. We haven't gotten really back up to 100% attendance, and again, that's just a cultural thing. And I did see that question from Gavin, and I guess hopefully we'll circle back to that.
Yeah, that basically ties into the question that Daza just asked as well.
Yeah, right. So the mentality, but I think that when I think of how I expect Daisen Maeda to play, I sort of think of Yuto Nagatomo. Who, because I was an FC Tokyo supporter way before I became a writer, and how he adjusted when he went to Serie A and played for Cesena and then went on to Inter. Just absolute daredevil. He will score at Ibrox and he will kiss the badge, and you will love it. No, he's going to be the next cult hero, I hope, and he has all the makings of it. Hatate, just as a personality, he isn't as outgoing. I'm curious as to how he gets on. He will be humble. I think he will be fine. I think that Kawasaki fans would ask Celtic fans to treat him as you would treat one of your kids. You need to protect that boy, and he will deliver for you. And Itaguchi, not quite at Maida's level of recklessness, but he will make the hard tackles for you. He will play his heart out for you. He will give everything for you. And as I said earlier, I think Hatate will too, because just he puts that pressure on himself. The atmosphere will be different. They have played in some big games. They have played in some very adverse environments, especially the ones with international experience, because if you're playing for Japan, you are traveling to the West Asia. You're playing on horrible pitches. You are in some very tough away games. If you're in the Champions League too, you're going to Korea, you're going to China, you're going to places where they hate you, and they're not afraid to let you know. again, I'm not saying that any of that compares to the guys across the city, but these are not babes in the woods. They understand what they're getting into, and in circumstances like this, they are playing for one man, and that is Ange Postecoglou, and they know that he is their crowd, and he is the one who they have to make happy. And if they do that, then they'll make all of you happy.
It's one of our greatest Celts ever said. You're not for Celtic. You're not playing. You're playing for a cause. You're playing for a people. Tommy Burns said that. Do you know what I mean? It's honest. Dan, I can't. You'll know because you're invested into sports journalism, so you'll know all about Celtic. And if you turn up for Celtic and give 100% with fire in your belly and 100% heart, you get forgiven for bad games. But if you turn up and you're not trying, it's a very unforgiving place.
Right. And I don't think that you'll have a problem with that with any of these Japanese players. They know, like Itaguchi knows that this is his chance to make up for the Leeds move that didn't really pan out. Like this is the big. Itaguchi has been handed a shot at redemption on a silver platter. He screws this up, and he's never going back to Europe, and he's never won't ever have a chance at getting into the national team picture. Maida has been to Europe. He played in Portugal for a year. He understands that, this is he did okay in Portugal, but he wasn't quite ready. But I think this is his chance. This is his time. And Hatate knows that there's never going to be a better chance, and this is a real opportunity for him. So I think they know what they're getting into, and they see what Kyogre has done, and they see how Kyogre's profile has gone up and how he's become a hero at Celtic Park already. You score 2 goals in a League Cup final. It's something, that's not for nothing. And it's just the start. I know that the real goal is at the end of the season. And that's the focus, but they're gonna give you their best. And we would expect nothing less from them.
Well, that's absolutely brilliant to hear, Dan, because that's what we want to hear about new signings.
I'll tell you what, Dan. I was sitting like 20 minutes ago with a hangover that would have absolutely wiped a better man out, and I was like, "Oh God, this podcast! I've volunteered to do it today." And I was like, "Oh my God!" But you know what? I've absolutely loved everything you've said, man, and the hangover's gone now.
Yeah, and listen, I'm not good. Like, I think over this last half year talking to Celtic fans, like, I'm not going to bullshit you. Like, I'm not going to claim that I have the inside track on these things. All the time. I'm just trying to provide the context. I'm trying to provide the history behind these players, because all of us who cover the J League and who watch it and who follow it, at this point, if a Japanese player succeeds, wherever that is our success. And that's our success for Japanese football. That's our success for Asian football, especially with Ange. His success at Celtic is huge for us, for the Australian game, because it does show that an Australian manager can, come into a European club and turn things around. And a lot of people before the season, who's this guy coming in from Australia? What's he done? He's going to be sacked by Christmas. He got you a cup by Christmas.
Yes.
And for a move like this to happen, for four bolted on national team caliber players to join a club with such a history, with such a reputation as Celtic, it's just never happened before. So this is a historic moment. But
I'm fucking loving it, man.
But I say all that, but none of what I say matters until they get on the pitch and play.
Yes.
Yes. It is a historic moment. There are, as we've talked about, the marketing potential there is massive. We don't like to talk about how it's a chance to sell shirts, because we're sort of beyond that. There's 50 or 60 Japanese players in Europe right now. Most of them in top division leagues. And a lot of them are starters or getting serious minutes. So it doesn't impress us, Maida holding up the scarf and wearing the shirt doesn't impress us yet. Him standing on the pitch will impress us. Him scoring goals impresses us. So there is pressure on them from Japan as well, because if they don't do well, if they just sort of exist, then the media isn't going to pay attention. The fans aren't going to really follow them. So
it's exposure into it, Dan. If you come and play and you've came from a country where there's almost a bit of snobbery about the terms of football, if these guys can come in and prove themselves, then you'll get more eyes looking at the J-League, which I think's happened. You look at the amount of exposure that's happened already in the last 6 months since Angus came in.
In the last decade, I think because I started really following the league in 2007, I'm looking at it from my timeline goes all the way back to the 2010 World Cup. And the last J-League game I saw before that World Cup, 3 players got bouquets because they were picked for Japan squad. One was Yasuyuki Kono, who you won't know, and that's okay. One was Yuto Nagatomo, who I brought up before.
Yes.
And one was Shinji Okazaki.
Yes,
Leicester. Who went on to have a great career in Germany and then joined Leicester and won the Premier League. We've had Keisuke Honda. We had Keisuke Honda go to Holland, go to Russia, go to Milan, do his weird thing. We've had Shinji Kagawa around that same period of time go to Germany, go to Dortmund, go to Manchester United. We had Shinji Kagawa, we had Shinsuke Nakamura.
The most famous one.
Your most famous one, and who really sort of started the trend. But now it is not unusual for 5 or 6 Japanese players to go to Europe in a transfer window. I think we've already had 6 or 7 this offseason so far. So I think that by now, European clubs are very aware of what the J-League is producing. And especially in Belgium, in Portugal, in Germany, they are rushing to find these sort of young talents to sign. What we are waiting for is the critical mass where we have Japanese players back in the Champions League, as we did for a period of time in the early 2010s, and impressing and scoring goals and making the highlight reels. That's where we sort of need to get back to. Right. Yeah, Nakamura just scored some amazing goals in the Champions League, but in the last 4 or 5 years, Japanese players haven't really been getting into the Champions League. Lots of Europa League play. So if Celtic can pull this off and get back into the Champions League, and then you've got Kyogre, Maida, Hatate, and maybe Itaguchi lining up against PSG on a Wednesday night under the lights.
Well,
that's huge.
Everyone is absolutely ecstatic to see these guys coming in together, Dan.
Really
looking forward to seeing them.
That is the moment that people will wake up for.
I remember saying to Big McCool when Nakamura scored the goal against Man United, and I'm like, it's too far out. And he's like, easy, it's in. And the next thing I knew, he was picking me up for 3 rows down, because it was a breathtaking moment. And I'm like, we celebrated that much, I fell 3 rows in front. But what a night.
And it's, he's iconic, and I'm never going to say that, any of these players are better than nobody can beat Celtic era Nakamura. Even Nakamura can't beat Celtic era Nakamura. We've all seen the New Year's Eve TV specials he does of hitting the topper off of the wedding cake, or kicking a ball from across from a backyard into a moving bus. He just does that for fun. He was a singular talent that will never be matched in some ways. But I think that Kyogre has done a very good job at picking up the mantle. You look at, Celtic were the first European club to launch a Japanese website back when Nakamura was there. January 2006. I was looking this up for a story I'm writing.
Right, okay.
So they do have experience with the market, and I think that as you've said, you had fan groups coming over. It's not going to happen for a while because of the pandemic, but I'm sure that the travel companies that specialize in football tours are waiting for travel to resume, because as soon as they do, there's going to be people lining up to go and check out, their boys,
Yeah,
at Celtic Park.
it'll be a nice scene to have the guys back over for Japan. But just listen, just thanks very much for giving us your insight into the three new guys. Absolutely loved it. Just for the last few moments, Dan, just for the last few moments before we finish up, Dan, I just had a few questions about Postecoglou, and obviously this is all stemmed from Big Ange coming from the J League. So just two questions before we go, as I say. What did you think was the biggest positives of Ange as a manager and the J League?
I mean, I think that he was very. The reason that we loved him so much in the J League was that he believed so much in what he was doing. We haven't really, you get managers who sort of try to, switch things up and try to adapt, and ended up playing this sort of very conservative pressing, or like conservative defensive football with, focusing on counters. And what we liked most about Ange was that he was just unapologetically, fuck you, we are playing attacking football. We are riding or dying with this philosophy. There is no plan. Plan B is plan A, but plan B is plan A, but better. I think that our media tends to sort of be heavy on tactics and sort of analysis, and they loved him because he believed in what he was doing, and he always believed it, and he never doubted himself. And I think that got him a lot of respect. And I think that you see that in how, after he left the club, Marinos came out and said, we're not going to scrap and rebuild. We are going to continue building on Ange's philosophy, which is the greatest testament that you can give to a departing manager.
Well, you've actually answered a question that we've asked a few times in previous podcasts. Does Ange have a plan B? So I'm sure Dale from the Celtic Supporters Podcast is going to be watching, and that's his question answered. So Ange has no plan B. He just I'll do plan A better.
I mean, when I say that, I'm not, again, I've gotten in trouble in podcasts in the past. I admit I'm being a little glib, but he is not going to betray his core beliefs.
Yeah, his philosophies.
His philosophy is the football that he believes in. That is what he is trying to achieve. And if that means bringing in new players who can adapt to that, that's what he'll do. If it means, adjusting and shaking things up and maybe tinkering with the formation, that's what he'll do. If it means getting through the half-season cycle and getting to the transfer window, that's what he'll do. The first year at Yokohama was rough, ups and downs. It was very much a roller coaster. But then in the offseason, he got in the defenders he needed. He got the goalkeeper who was better suited for the sort of sweeper goalkeeper that he wanted and that he needed, and they won the title. So he is just always a tinkerer, and he's always trying to pursue that philosophy and pursue the ideal of that philosophy.
I'm loving this.
And just the last question, Dan, before we go. This is a question that's been posted in by one of the viewers. We spoke about it earlier on that Celtic's had a lot of kind of hamstring injuries in recent weeks due to the pressing intensity that Ange asked for. So, see, when Ange took over in Japan at first, when he was kind of moulding the team into his image, were the players coming kind of pulling up with these types of injuries when they were getting used to the training and the asking of Ange?
I don't specifically remember the injury situation at Yokohama. I mean, there have been injuries. They did have some injuries, not hamstrings, but actually some more serious injuries over the course of those first two seasons. But especially in the 2019 season, they were very good about getting loan signings and people who were able to slot in and fill those positions, especially the Brazilians in midfield and up front. The first season was difficult because the players do need to improve their conditioning and be able to, because they're moving for 90 minutes. They're not sitting and waiting for the ball to come to them. They're going after, and they are always being in position to create that pass, to receive the ball, to move forward. So there is an adjustment period, and I'm not surprised that there are some injury issues. I mean, midway through the season, it just sort of, it does take a lot out of you to play that style of football for as long as they are.
So it's muscle conditioning.
Yeah, it is an adjustment for the players, who have been used to playing different styles over the course of the, before Anne showed up. I don't think that there's, it's not great, but it's par for the course, I think.
Great, Dan. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you very, very much for your insight today. I know it's New Year's Day. You're back home in Philadelphia, so thank you very much for taking the time out to come and speak to us and come and speak to the wider Celtic support and let them know about the players that were signed. Okay, where you go. As I say, just thanks for taking the time out as well, Dan. I know you've been busy with Sky Sports News and stuff like that as well. So,
hey, you know what? I mean, it's crazy being on there, but like, I love these conversations more in a way because, like, again, you guys are learning about the JLeague and Japanese players. I'm learning because it is a journey of discovery. Look, yes. I'm an American who covers Japanese football. Like, of course, I have lots to learn. But I love that we have the opportunity to do this sort of thing, and the more chances for exchange and learning that we can create, and that's the beauty of this community.
Absolutely, and we'd be more than happy to have you back on anytime you want.
If you're ever over, Dan. I've got my cool season ticket, and I'll give you his season ticket for a game.
That's the dream. I'm not. I've gotten so many. I've gotten so many offers for pints that I don't think I'm gonna have to pull out my wallet a single day once I get over there. It's a dream. Not until the situation gets sorted. Because I don't think I have much time off to take more to do more quarantining. Hopefully I'll be able to meet some of the fans that I've gotten to know online in person one day, and hopefully I'll get to see some of you guys in Japan if there's that preseason tour. Maybe not this year, but maybe next year. Because I think that you will have you'll have an incredible experience, and it will be a different match day experience than what you're used to. But that's the joy of it. And anytime you guys want to come to a JLeague game, again, once things open up, I think you will be very impressed and satisfied with the experience.
There you are, Dan. That's the next football trip sorted.
What's the lap dancing like here?
Hey, you. maybe
comment.
Live. Right, that's great. Listen, we're going to wrap up there, but again, thank you very much, Dan, for coming on, and thank you.
Appreciate it.
For giving the Celtic support as much knowledge about these new guys as possible, because there has been a lot of questions. So I'm hoping you've answered a lot of them.
Hopefully I have, and I'm always happy to answer more. And all of us in the community are always happy to do what we can. And Happy New Year to you guys and to everyone listening and watching. And here's to what should be a very exciting finish to the season. I mean, 5 months to go. It's going to be a crazy 5 months, but I can't wait to see how it plays out.
Well, we'll maybe get you back on when we've won the title, Dan.
There you go.
Listen, you enjoy the rest of your new year and back home in Philadelphia, mate. And everybody else, everybody that's tuned in today, thanks so much for taking time out on a New Year's Day. Maybe the Jungle Gyms podcast. Hail, hail.
Thank you.